What's good, everyone? This your main correspondent, Alan Taylor, and I'm back in the broadcast room. And this is where we at now. So we're going to Myron Gaines' channel. And apparently, because of course, Kamala Harris, just came out with a new book and stuff like that. And apparently in the book, Kamala Harris, she was mentioning a lot of stuff. I hadn't read the book or anything like that, but from, word of mouth, stuff like that, I'm hearing things. So apparently, Myron Gaines has got word back to him that Kamala Harris wrote about him and Andrew Tate in the book, changing the males' minds about the voting situation this past election. Hey, it's wild out here. It's wild out here. So she's blaming Myron Gaines and Andrew Tate for changing or taking away the male vote, basically. So we're going to dive off into this and see what these two gentlemen had to say. Quarters, nickels, and dimes, people.
I can hear you guys. Can you guys hear me?
Bro, that's an epic find. That's a fucking flex.
Generational lifetime W for you two.
Yeah, no, I was actually on live and someone sent it to me and said, hey, did you know that you're mentioned in her book? And I was like, what? He was like, and he sent it to me and basically she was like, well, yeah, these two guys like took away the male vote from me and, in her book and stuff. So I was like, yo, this is crazy. I was like on stream and so they said it to me and I'm like, what the hell? And well, number one, I was shocked they were even reading that book, but I did hear from people that she was going to release this book and that she had like some criticisms for releasing too much information, which is really interesting. But yeah, dude, like it was just nuts to see. But that era, looking back on it, like that was the censorship era. Like that was one of the worst eras ever when it comes to censorship on the main platforms, making masculinity a bad thing. It was just a completely cucked period.
Completely cucked, bro. And there was only a few of us who were riding against it. One of the things I don't like on Twitter now, because it's cool to be conservative, all these conservative bros write their long tweets about how important it is that you love your wife and you cuck to your wife and you need to love your wife. That's all they talk about. And it's just like, bro, during the actual culture war, none of you people even piped up. You all sat still and shut the fuck up and took your thing because you were scared. It was only us two and maybe two or three others who were really gunning and riding and charging at the gunfire and suffering for it. Tristan and I were in Romania, which is a very corrupt country, so they caught us. Luckily, you were in America. But bro, they would have got you just the same. It was all a setup. It was all bullshit. And we were fighting against the entire matrix, the whole system, the censorship apparatus, the legal apparatus, the mainstream news. We were fighting against all of it, just us sitting here with our big mouths. And it turns out Kamala admits that we moved the needle. That is...
Hey. That can't be denied. So Kamala has admitted that the manosphere, or whatever you want to call it, things like that, has moved the needle in this past election. Listen, look, and at the same time though, too, we have to be honest with this situation as well. Kamala was running off a lot of trash policies and stuff like that. And, she went on The View as well and stuff like that. She was asked the question, well, hold on. Let me see. Was it The View? It may not have been The View, but anyway, she was asked the question in one of the interviews that she did. What is going to be the difference in your administration than from Biden's administration? And she fumbled all the time. And it was like, basically nothing is going to change from Biden's administration and my administration. And be honest with you though, I didn't expect anything different because that party runs with what they want to run with, and they're still trying to implement this today. That's the reason why the government is shut down now. They're still trying to give health care to illegal people over here and stuff like that, which they're not trying to give the taxpayer citizens actual, free health care, or at least some type of super discount on health care here. This is crazy.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
Most Americans would be okay if you were actually taking care of us like you're supposed to. But the Democratic Party it doesn't want to do anything for America's citizens. It wants to use our hard labor and work to gain the tax money, to bring in other people and stuff like that, to try to change the culture. And that's the big issue. And that's what's not being said. The Democratic Party wants to change the culture of America, to what they want it to be in the future. Let's keep going.
They flex, bro.
I was like at a loss for words. I was like, oh, damn. But, that just goes to show, well, number one, how out of touch a lot of these, Democrats or progressives or liberals are, because for years they had ostracized young men, right? If you guys remember that Gillette commercial from back in the day where there's like, oh, is this the best a man can get? And Terry Crews, that big cuck, he's over there talking about like, men need to hold men accountable, blah, blah, all this other bullshit. Like, these guys don't understand that this type of content exploded in popularity because men have been ostracized from society for so long.
Yep.
Like, women have been able to be incompetent, rude, not respect authority for literally years. And then finally, guys like us came out and said, yeah, bitches are stupid. They're like, you probably should have listened to them, right?
Yep.
They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. It's like, yeah, but it's like, it took us saying women are for people to say, you know what? You're right. Women are right. You're saying they can't drive. And people are like, wait, every time I got hit by a car, it was a female driver. These guys are right. So all we did was connect the dots to things that people already knew. And we were able to help these guys, like, step up. Now, thankfully, I would argue like young men nowadays are more based on like, I'm a millennial. I know you guys are millennials too. Like our generation, it was cool to be a leftist or whatever. At least these young guys now, right? They're figuring out like, no, being on the left is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, our generation was super.
So they are based.
Hey, I definitely agree with that. You know what I'm saying? I'm an early millennial, and I'm in the same generation with these three gentlemen right here. Like definitely, you know what I'm saying? And it's crazy, the things that we were taught as young men and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that some of it was just, like super crazy bad. You supposed to treat, your counterparts, the women folk with respect and stuff like that, just like they supposed to treat you with respect. I'm not saying that you're supposed to disrespect people just because you was born a damn man. That doesn't make any sense to me. That is stupid. You're supposed to treat people with respect. You're supposed to care about people, especially if you have women in your family, stuff like that. You're supposed to care about your women folk. And if you get married, you're supposed to care about your wife. But in today's society, the situation has been so skewed all the way to the women's favor and giving them such a boosted head to, a lot of them are actually, showing their natural raw ass. And they've been doing this shit for decades. And that's been the issue.
So where do you think the world's going? What's going to come next? We won this big victory, and I felt like we won. And in some ways we've won, but we're still kind of stuck in the mud. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's evident that we're still kind of recovering from the censorship, right? Like I'm still demonetized on YouTube, still banned on certain platforms. You guys are still doing this bullshit case, and it's amazing how month after month, like you guys get your money back, then you guys get your cars back, then you guys, this case gets dropped, or this girl, says, oh, you know what, I don't want to pursue this anymore. And like people still have the galls to sit there and say, oh yeah, these guys are totally guilty. It's like, dude, they would have been in jail by now if that's the case.
I never would have left you.
Well, not only are we not guilty, we're actually more innocent than 99% of men on the planet. If we smoked weed, we'd be in jail. If we took steroids, we'd be in jail. If we had a BDSM room like 50 Shades of Grey, the average ass normie shit all these liberals are into, we'd be in jail. We don't do anything but have kids and ignore women. So because of that, they can't bang us up. We're more innocent than 99% of men.
Yeah, there's this meme. Every time I see these on TV, I'm like, he needs his hard drive checked. He needs his hard drive checked. Your hard drive and your phone and your data is the map, the blueprint, the roadmap of everything you've done and everything you've been into for years. They have seized electronic devices from me every single year since 2022. And my 2022 laptop and phone were 4 or 5 years old. Everything I've ever done digitally has been analyzed, most recently by probably the FBI and the CIA, because Ron DeSantis stole all my electronics that I had for the last year and a half. And guess what's going to happen in that Florida case? I'm going to make a prediction.
I remember when they touched down in Florida. If y'all don't remember, they did touch down in Florida as soon as they got off house arrest, basically in Romania and stuff like that. They immediately came to America. They touched down in Florida. I get it. Florida was probably the closest place that they thought that they could go to where they would be safe, because technically it's a red state, with its politicians and stuff like that. So they probably thought that would probably be the safest place that they could touch down at that particular moment in time.
Actually, Myron, I'm going to make a prediction. This James Uthmeyer, this Ron DeSantis, they got on the news. They had their viral moment. They 3x their Twitter followers. They stole from American citizens. They told me I wasn't welcome in the United States.
Yeah, that was crazy.
My grandfather fought in World War II against the Japanese. These are out of their mind. And let me make a prediction. They have all of my electronics. They've taken everything they can get their hands on. They've micro-analyzed my iCloud in my entire life. And I bet within no time, these losers are going to have to say, well, he didn't actually do anything and look like because I don't do anything.
You know, it's funny because I always tell the story, right? And I won't go too far here, right? But like I always tell the story when, because I spent like a month with you guys in Romania, right? Which you guys were so gracious to open your homes up to me, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
I got to see people say, oh yeah, these guys are. I'm like, bruh, like they were trying to get girls out the house. What the hell are you guys talking about? Like, you know, it's just funny. But whenever they can't, you know, beat the message or they can't, you know, they don't have enough influence or whatever, they have to silence you through other means, right? And thankfully, you know, I know people criticize Trump and all this other stuff like, oh, well, he does this for Israel, he does that. I think him being in office right now is infinitely 10 times better than if Kamala had taken office. Because at least with Trump, censorship has receded a bit, right? Yeah. And now we're able to, you know, there's guys that are like blowing up right now, right? Our friend Nick, he's been able to, you know, kind of take advantage of this and be able to blow up, because if we're not censored, it's very obvious that we're going to win. Because let's be honest, who gives a fuck about these on the left like Hassan and Kyle Klinsky and all these other losers?
Nobody.
Like, these guys are not dudes that guys look at and be like, I want to be like them. No, they're like, these dudes are and soft. They want to be strong. They want to be able to get girls. They want to be able to have fast cars, make money, be competent, etc., and be able to speak their mind. And unfortunately, the reason why young men don't want to be a part of the left is because, number one, the left has ostracized them. Then when you look at the role models on the left, these aren't men you really want to aspire to be like, right? These guys just aren't cool.
And yeah, like a lot of people criticize Trump for a lot of his policies. There's no politician in the world who would aspire to 100% of everything I agree with unless I ran for office myself. That's not how politics works. However, when you have a candidate, it doesn't matter who it was. If you have a candidate who says, you know what, the First Amendment is going to be respected. Freedom of speech, the Constitution, that's the bedrock of America. That is one of my initial issues. I'm going to make sure everyone can talk freely. That, despite anything else that candidate might say or do, opens up the ability for us to discuss other ideas, the ideas the candidate might not like. But we can shift the Overton window further. It may only shift a foot or two with his win. However, with the complete freedom of speech and the right to discuss ideas openly, every single issue on the American table in terms of what's wrong with our country can finally be discussed, and we can shift things further. So,
and you know, it's crazy too, because like, think about it, like with Trump, right? He dealt with the bullshit too. The Matrix came after him.
Yeah.
After January 6th, I'll never forget, all his shit got banned, taken off every platform, damn near Uber Eats. The president of the United States couldn't get Uber Eats no more, right? They banned him off every single platform. Then they tried to put him in jail. He got indicted 4 different times in 4 different jurisdictions. And then you had all these bitches come out of nowhere saying, oh, he me in some, change room in a random store in the 1990s. And then she goes on CNN, Carol was her name, if I'm not mistaken. E. Jean Carroll, exactly. And Anderson Cooper asked her, like, you know, more about it. She's like, oh, yeah, like, doesn't have to be physical. What the bitch, that's a part of that's an element of the crime. So, right. But this is where we are, where we're in a loony world where how women feel dictates if they could push criminal charges against you. If the president isn't safe, nobody is.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
Right. And we all remember those charges and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? And, they pushed that charge on Trump and stuff like that, and you push the conviction, you know what I'm saying, to give him this outrageous felony, which they're using against him now. Oh, he's a felon, this and that. You hear JB Pritzker, oh, you know, why are you talking to a felon and this and that? Crazy crap. This is crazy crap. And this is what's going on here in America. And with the big wigs and the politicians and all that type of stuff, they control the media and all this other type of thing like that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, they can twist things very politically. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's just like now we also see with Letitia James, what she going through. You know, yeah, fraud. It is what it is, though. You know, this is crazy though. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, it depends, because if the women say, absolutely not, I'm not the victim of crime, he did absolutely nothing wrong with me, please stop calling me in for interviews, they say she's brainwashed and the man's a criminal, as in my case. So it actually doesn't matter what the woman says. It doesn't matter if she's crazy. It doesn't matter if she's, making an actual accusation. It doesn't matter if she's taking back and taking away accusations and saying the man done nothing wrong. If it's a man with that the system's got their sights on, they're pulling the trigger. It doesn't matter.
We need billboards. Myron, listen, we need billboards. Yeah. Kamala Harris, in her book, stated that Andrew Tate and Myron games are the reason why she didn't win. Picture of you, a picture of me, billboards, New York Times Square. I'm doing this. Everyone owes us a thank you.
They do, bro.
Us personally, a thank you. We got mentioned by name in her book. She owes, the world owes us. Imagine her right now with her cackling and her pantsuit. This would be an insufferable reality. Insufferable. We saved humanity from that plague.
The thing is also, I don't think people understand it.
Yeah.
So what the French toast is there to think about?
Sorry, I had to stop there. Oh yeah. I don't give a fuck what nobody say. Real talk though. You know what I'm saying? That would have been a tragic situation. Let's just keep this honest here, people. You know what I'm saying? All these illegals that were dumped off in the black neighborhoods and stuff like that, definitely in these democratic cities and stuff like that, it would have been way worse if Kamala's regime had got in office. You know what I'm saying? They would have been continuously dumping these illegals in your neighborhoods and stuff like that, in black neighborhoods, definitely. You know what I'm saying? Giving them free health care by the just overwhelmingly pushing out black people from their homes. You have to imagine how that shit would really be if Kamala had really took office. It would have been tragic for black people, because that's where they were putting all these illegals at, in the black neighborhoods. They wasn't putting them in the white neighborhoods or the Indians or the Asians or the Iranians or anybody else's neighborhood. They were dumping them off in black neighborhoods. Man, that would have been tragic, bruh. Tragic. Black children being affected in schools, pushed out, stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Because the primary objective in schools probably would have been, educating the illegal children and stuff like that, the illegals children. And, I get it. I'm not trying to knock the children, because it's not their fault. It's not any child's fault of the family that they're born into. That's not their fault. But we're dealing with grown adult issues here. And yes, if she had took office, it would have been a huge problem with black folks. Y'all better be glad that Trump won this shit as black people, and he taking these illegals up out of here, man. This is crazy.
The significance of this. If she came into office, we would have been cooked, bro. And that's not just us.
Years, bro. I'd be in jail.
Yeah.
His jail. Matt Gaetz jail. Trump and his administration, including Vance and all the Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh jail. They'd all be in jail,
bro. We'd be cooked. And then not only that, like the recession and censorship that we're kind of enjoying now, it would have got worse, because I remember when she was campaigning, one of the things that she was saying is like, we need to bring in these social media companies a bit, right? So they would have censored way more.
Yeah, it was getting out of control. It was completely crazy, and
I'd be nowhere. Elon would be in jail. Twitter would be gone. Probably Chris, the CEO of Rumble, bless him, would be in jail. Rumble would be gone. And I would be nowhere. I'd have nowhere to talk.
Well, the thing is too, Andrew, I don't know if I showed you this paper, but like Media Matters wrote this hit piece on like me, you, and a bunch of other people that make, what they call manosphere content, but they made a hit piece on us. And that's what like kind of started the whole situation of putting us on the radar and getting us banned. I mean, with you guys even faster, because you guys were blown up, right? And they were like, yo, we got to get this guy out of here. But the government was absolutely targeting people that had any type of what they call alt-right or far-right views, which it's crazy nowadays. If you say women are, but you're considered like far-right, right? Even though it's true for a majority of them. But dude, absolutely, the government was colluding and working with these social media companies to censor us. I know for a fact they did that to you guys. I don't know if you guys want to tell them which particular politician. I'll leave that to you guys if you want to tell them that. But guys, the American government 100% was colluding with these social media companies to get rid of certain voices on the right, for sure.
Yo. So this is where we at right now. You know what I'm saying? Definitely, if you want to watch the whole video, stuff like that, I will leave the link. But this is the thing right here, man. Yes, you know, if we had, if the manosphere hadn't gained so much traction throughout these past few years before this election popped off, because you know what I'm saying, the manosphere had been going on, you know, years before this. You know, a lot of men would have caved in to the situation. Now, I'm not saying that definitely in the black community, we know the percentage and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying, of, you know, black people that actually voted for Kamala. But see, the issue is that, you know what I'm saying, you know, thank God that didn't manifest. We need to understand what's going on here. You know what I'm saying? Trump actually is working hard to get illegals out of the black community, where the last administration actually put these illegals in the black community. And I don't understand how black people are not waking up to these facts right here. You know what I'm saying? You can't sit there and negate these facts. You know, definitely in these democratic cities. And you have a certain segment of black people that are crying out like, listen, look, get these idiots up out of here. You also have a certain segment of, you know, immigrants that came over here legally, that did what they were supposed to do, you know what I'm saying, came through the process and stuff like that, and they're pissed off with what this previous administration had did. Just allowed, they was flying illegals in, flying them all the way, you know what I'm saying? Y'all remember that little town that they dropped off like 20,000 Haitians or some shit like that in a small town? You know what I'm saying? The Lake and Raleigh Act came about because of the situation that these illegals were doing. We have to have long memories out here. The past, before right during the election era and stuff like that, it was a treacherous time. We saw raw assness from the Democratic Party in allowing these illegals to do all types of things. These people, if you remember the one illegal that actually stabbed a young girl at a baseball game.
And what the French toast is there to think about?
Long memories, people. And I'm going to keep saying it. Remember that? He escaped from Denver, where they actually took over apartment complexes and stuff like that by gunpoint, because they actually broke into gun stores, stole guns in Denver, and then took over apartment complexes from citizens who were actually paying rent. Man, y'all, whoo, man. But you hate Trump for sending in the National Guard, trying to clean up this situation right here, trying to protect ICE and stuff like that, to get these illegals up out of here, man. We got to get these people up out of here. I'm all for it. It is what the fuck it is. I'm a taxpayer citizen, and I want my money that they take out of my check before I can even see it to go to things that I'm going to vote for. But it is what it is, though. Shout out to all my subscribers. Mad love to y'all. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like, share, subscribe button. Make sure you ring that bell to be notified whenever I decide to post things. And like I always say,
and that, my friends, is the bottom line.
That, my friends, is